Costa Rica President Chaves protected everyone living in Costa Rica in his agreement with President of Panama to bus the hordes of Venezuelans coming out of through the Darien Gap to Nicaragua. It's been reported that the hordes of migrants entering North America through the Texas border have typhoid and tuberculosis that will create famine. What is typhoid? First, typhoid bacteria is not airborne. No need to fearfully wear a stupid mask that is very harmful to humans' brain cells through inhaling their own poisonous CO2 carbon dioxide. Typhoid, that is also known as typhoid fever, is an acute illness involved in a fever caused by Salmonella typhi bacteria or Salmonella paratyphi bacterium that often causes a less severe illness. In fact, the bacteria exist in the water or food, meaning they can transfer from one to others. Epidemic/louse-borne typhus. This type is carried by the body louse, and possibly by ticks as well. It can be found around the world, including in the United States, but is typically found in areas of high population and poor sanitation, where conditions promote lice infestation. Endemic typhus. Alternatively known as murine typhus, this type is caused by Rickettsia typhi and is carried by the rat flea or cat flea. Endemic typhus can be found worldwide. It may be found among people in close contact with rats. If you come in contact with these bacterium-carrying arthropods, for example, by sleeping on bed sheets infested with lice, you can become infected in a couple ways. The bacteria, in addition to being transmitted through your skin by their bites, can also be transmitted through their feces. If you scratch the skin over an area where lice or mites have been feeding, the bacteria in their feces can enter your bloodstream through the tiny wounds on your skin. Fecal-oral transmission route. Fecal-oral transmission route is the other cause of typhoid, in which the bacteria spread through contaminated water or food and through direct contact with those who have been infected. In developing countries where typhoid is endemic, most of the typhoid cases result from poor sanitation and contaminated drinking water.
I read a lot of books on famine and whatnot and pandemic because that's all part of war. War, pandemic, famine, war, right? The three triangles of death. And one of the things that spreads in pandemic is what they call, or let's say famines, is something called famine fevers, right? Famine fevers. One of the famine fevers is typhus. Typhus. You'll see increasing outbreaks. I see them. I've been tracking typhus for years, right? Because I look at that for places where I might need to go look. Oh, there's a typhus outbreak, so and so, like Los Angeles, right? So typhus has different names. Famine fever, camp fever, hospital fever, ship fever, naval fever, war fever, and famine fever. It's one of the famine fevers. Relapsing fevers is also one of the. But whenever you have a famine, within a few months, you'll start to see the typhus outbreaks. What spreads epidemic typhus? There's different types of typhus. There's scrub typhus. We don't need to worry about that. There's, unless you're in, say, India or Bangladesh. And then there's marine typhus spread by fleas. And then there's epidemic typhus. That's the one we need to be concerned about. Epidemic typhus is spread by lice, right? Now, in Darien Gap here, there are a lot of lice. And like the Imbra Indians and Kuna Indians get a lot of lice and whatnot. But there's not been any typhus outbreaks, right? There's cases at times, but you can actually, if your health department stays on it, you can knock it down. I found recently something called, what's it called? The American Pediatric Society or something like that. They're actually recommending that in the United States, that if children come to school with lice, not to send them home, which is a clear attack. That's if people look at this as one of the dark ages things, and we'll never see it again. Nonsense. It's endemic to California and Texas, and it's in these homeless camps already. But we keep it knocked down because when people come in with lice, we go in there and get rid of the stuff, burn it or whatever. If the kids come to school with lice, you can get it cleaned up, permethrin, lice. There's things that you can do for lice, and also scabies is another very serious disease, and which is clearly spreading, not to mention multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, which is coming up Highway 1 every day on these buses right now. It's already all over the United States. Tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is one of the worst diseases in all human history, right? It's up there with Black Death, yellow fever, smallpox. It's Mac Daddy. Remember, pandemic, famine, war. I'm a war correspondent. I study those three things and information war constantly, right? And the tuberculosis that's coming through now multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. We can't stop it. It's already all over the United States. Even the CDC admits to this, right? And what are we going to do as these busloads of people come up with? They're coming from places like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia. Nobody is being screened. People say in the past, well, what did they do in the old days? Did they? We didn't do it in the old days. Yes, we did. We put people on quarantine islands and that sort of thing in the old days.
Right.
Or if somebody comes in coughing or has a fever or something, you go to this line, right? That's not what's happening. They're just getting scratching and itching and getting on these buses. I'm like, which one of these buses is taking, Ebola up? This biological warfare, some of it's just stupidity, and other parts are clear biological warfare. For instance, advising people not to send children home from school who have lice. That's the worst advice. That's like saying, just because you're coughing in people's faces and you just came from Afghanistan, it doesn't mean you should be sent home from school.
Drugstores in Costa Rica have the following medication at the counters. Antibiotics most commonly used to treat typhus include doxycycline, Dorix, Vibramycin, the preferred treatment. Chloramphenicol, an option for those not pregnant or breastfeeding. Ciprofloxacin, Cipro, used for adults who are unable to take doxycycline. We do not recommend any injections. The following natural plants have remedy formula remedies for typhoid fever: apple cider vinegar, garlic, cloves, basil, bananas, oranges, basil leaves and black pepper, lemon or lime juice, honey, coconut water. All these grow in abundance in Costa Rica. Google VCool. Com home remedies for typhoid for the formulas. It is always best to drink very clean water and eat all the natural healthy plants in Costa Rica. Plenty of fresh oxygen and sunshine. It helps to follow infection prevention guidelines like washing your hands thoroughly and often, coughing into your elbow or covering your mouth when you cough, avoiding close contact with other people, making sure you take all of your medication correctly, not returning to work or school until you've been cleared by your healthcare provider. Natural preventions include vitamin C from dietary sources such as eggs, fortified milk, fish, and cod liver oil. It is also called the sunshine vitamin as you can get it by basking in the early morning sunshine. Vitamin D can be purchased in drug and health food stores in Costa Rica. Best to take 5,000 units a day. Also eating bananas, pineapples, garlic, gourds, and oranges. And do not forget Costa Rica is the #1 blue zone in the world.